been, this country, this country has never really gone out in search specifically for gas. It's always been, the guy is looking for crude oil, and incidentally, gas comes along. And what you do with the molecules? You either re-inject back into the world to spur further production of crude oil, or you fly it. Some few volumes obviously were subject of export through the LNG, and of course a plethora of some other uses, albeit not really significant for the nation. So we felt that we needed to change this trajectory to therefore employ gas as a catalyst for Nigeria's socio-economic renaissance, rebirth. So what should we do therefore? A structure was created, and we felt that, look, we need to look at the entire gas value chain. And then we created as follows. We have what you call the gas-based industry program that is chaired by Engineer Lebo, a technical advisor to the Honorable Minister on downstream. Essentially, the gas-based industry is to see how we can add value. We can create many more of NMA petrochemicals. And I have a sense of nostalgia that 20 years ago, when I took over the chairmanship of NMA Petrochemicals, it literally was almost dead. And then it was privatized, and we'll see the impact it has had on the community. And I say all the time, today NMA is providing LDP, HDP, polypropylene, polyethylene, for the nation, urea, and was a major contributor to the rice revolution that we experienced over the last 24 months. So I felt that, look, if we could actually make a success out of LMA Petrochemicals, we could replicate this. And of the 3 petrochemical plants that NNPC had, the linear alkyl benzene plant in Kaduna, which was supposed to be a petrochemical plant to supply raw materials for the production of detergents, literally just went dead. Ditto with the bitumen plant. And then, close by in Warri, we all know the carbon black, also petrochemical plant that came up, which was a major input for the production of elastomers, tires, and so on and so forth. It went dead. And, by its death, obviously, companies like Dunlop, Michelin, who were dependent, on raw materials from there, literally just walked away to Ghana. So we felt that we needed to start all over, and we're so happy that suddenly Dangote Refinery, urea company came on board. And then over the last 18 months, what have we done, under the gas-based industry? We've been able to encourage many more people to come up with modular systems, for the production of different things. And among the ones we did actually was the polymer resins, because we now knew that, look, listen, for our domestic agriculture, for our domestic gas LPG program and auto LPG program, we needed what we call the composite cylinders. Everybody knows that the steel cylinders are type 1 or type 2. The world has moved into type 4. So we needed the raw materials to be able to produce the cylinders, that are lighter, more affordable, and then we can produce them in country if we could develop, the polymer resin. So we went to LMA Petrochemicals and we sat with them all through the COVID-19 last year, when everybody was really scared traveling. And we sat down in the lab and were able to develop and produce the polymer resins. We sent samples abroad, came back, and the samples were found to be suitable for the production of the composite cylinders. And I'm happy to announce that just for that particular purpose, 3 composite cylinder plants are currently being built. One in Baran in Bayelsa, another one in Lagos, and the third one in Kano, all to have a combined capacity to produce composite cylinders of 4.5 million units per annum. A company like Techno Oil that was already in the business of producing cylinders using steel, was going to expand, and we had to immediately intervene and say, no, you don't need to do that. You need to move in, into this composite cylinder. So this is an example of what we've done with the gas-based industry program of the National Gas Expansion Program. Obviously, under the GBI, we have, mini LNG coming up. Dr. Ubani is going to speak a little bit more on that. Engineer Duruji will also tell you about some of the, plants that are coming up in the country, producing resins and other things. So the GBI program is essentially to use the wet gas, clean it up, okay, take the lean gas through the pipeline or CNG, and then employ that to ensure that, yes, indeed, we add value, we produce fertilizers, we produce petrochemicals, we produce pharmaceuticals, we produce, all the other secondary items so that the nation can be self-sufficient. And secondly, under the NGEP, we also have what you call the CNG program. Essentially, you get the wet gas, you clean it up, you get the lean gas, and then you can compress it, and compressing natural gas, CNG, essentially, we now felt that, look, the nation was going through a very difficult period where the issue of deregulation comes in, subsidy regime and so on and so forth. In 2005, I had, the opportunity of pioneering, introducing auto CNG in Benin. So we did a pilot in Benin then, and we built a 70-kilometer pipeline ring around Benin City. And then about 7 CNG stations. As I speak today, 6,000 automobiles have converted, to using auto CNG in Benin. Okay, now Dangote picked that up just about 5 years ago, and 3,600 of his trucks are currently running on CNG, on compressed natural gas. So when the program came on board, we already had that we could build on. So the whole essence is therefore to now also migrate, most of the gasoline fueled engines, vehicles, trucks, generators to be able to run on compressed natural gas. So we have a program manager, Dr. Abner, who is handling that. We also feel that we could also use a CNG, for reticulation in estates, right? So that you can have an estate that will have its own power system, generate electricity, reticulate gas into homes, meter them, so that you have estates that are literally self-sufficient, in energy. We also have what you call the LPG program. Under the LPG program, we divided the LPG program into two. We have what you call the auto LPG, and we have the domestic LPG. Brenda Ataga is the program manager for our domestic LPG. And the domestic LPG is essentially, focused on deepening the usage of LPG at domestic level, in which case, together with our program of, building and manufacturing composite cylinders in the country, we want every single Nigerian, wherever they are, especially in underserved locations all over the country, to be able to have access, to LPG. And under this program, we have what you call the micro distribution centers. These are kiosks that are going to be built. So instead of having this guy, having a 50 kg cylinder, in his little cubicle, turning it upside down by gravity, filling the 2.5 kg, we're going to have this lovely, nice, kiosk, which we designed already, so that neighborhoods where LPG is going to be distributed, just similar to how you do with Coca-Cola or any of these carbonated drinks, so that they only sell the filled LPG. Essentially, they go to the LPG filling plant, fill up, bring them here, and they're distributed through that channel. That's one. And secondly, we now decided to also partner with all the military agencies, the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Police, the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian Customs Service, the Immigration Service, the Civil Defense, so that in all their barracks all over the country, we will have these micro distribution centers as an option, and also reticulation of LPG as another option, and also giving them an option to also drive, their generators on LPG. Now, finally, under the program, we have what you call the auto LPG scheme, which is the lowest hanging fruit in the real sense of it, so that we can have vehicles, especially, the prime movers, all these small little, prime movers. I pass my neighbor generators, the 3-wheeler generators, or the gasoline engines of less than 2 cc capacity, to be able to also migrate, from the use of PMS, gasoline, to using LPG. Now, the issue is this: it is all, with the hope of getting these vehicles just, install what you call conversion kits. That costs, really little. The advantage of LPG is that LPG can be moved, can be transported all over the country. Meanwhile, but for CNG, you need, the cascade. I mean, a cascade costs about $200,000 US, right? Now, it's not the same case with an LPG tank, whether a bobtail or a bridger, which is cheaper. And then you can have LPG in the retail outlets, as what you call add-on. So in all this, when I came out with the concept of the multi-fuel system, the first thing we did when we got on board last year, January, was to work with the DPR and we review their guidelines completely, their guidelines, in respect of gas-based industry approvals, in respect of CNG approvals, LPG approvals, so that the DPR will now focus essentially on HSC, health, safety, and environment. And then working together with SON, we were able to achieve a tremendous review of the guidelines of DPR. So that DPR that we have today is not only just a regulatory agency, but it's an enabler of business. If you are going to deepen, you're going to expand gas utilization in the country, obviously you needed to be able to simplify without compromising on safety, health, and environment. And this is what the DPR has done. DPR has really done wonderfully well, and that has also, assisted in the fast track of, the penetration, new entrants are coming on, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, this is essentially what, the National Gas Expansion Program is all about. What have we done over the last, 18 months? We started by, like I said, reviewing the guidelines of DPR. We met all stakeholders, literally in the entire industry. Three things we found out. One, people were not really very sure about whether this is sustainable or not. Secondly, are we going to get the molecules at price that will be affordable? And number three, what happens in the event where this government goes? So the first thing we did to address the first question of, is government really serious? And then to address the last question, sustainability. We now created the Virtual Gas Integrated Association of Nigeria. We knew that there were other associations already, but we knew that to be able to get a spread over the entire nation, geographical area called Nigeria, Sokoto, Maiduguri, where you don't have network or pipelines, you need to move these molecules, virtually, right? And if you're going to do that, you now needed to get people who are already partners, what do you call it, investors in the sector. So we singled out total support, led by Dr. Obani. We brought in Greenview, and then we brought in a host of other companies who are already in the business, green energy, green fuels, NIPCO, who are already moving the molecules, from their mother stations, to daughter stations in retail outlets. So essentially what we're looking at for the auto sector is, as time goes on, and we've already started seeing that happen, you will see virtually all the retail outlets in this country. And the DPR has done an enumeration of the retail outlets in the country. And they've identified 9,000 that qualify for the multi-fuel system. What is a multi-fuel system? Essentially, it's a system whereby you have an existing retail outlet, that dispenses, PMS, AGO, DPK, and this. Now that the same station is going to be retrofitted to now have provision for LCNG, LNG, CNG, auto, because for CNG, you can move only 300 kilometers radius. But for LNG, you can move 1,200 kilometers. So in a retail outlet, you are going to see the retail outlet being retrofitted to now have provisions to dispense LNG for long distance, trucks, and then CNG for 300 kilometers. And again, you now also have the add-on, LPG, which can maybe 5 ton. They can also do auto LPG. And in addition to that, you also now have electric charging points. So in a nutshell, you're going to have retail outlets that will be able to dispense all the energy streams, and then you choose. So government can now effortlessly, deregulate completely and say, what? If you ask anyone in Benin today, CNG is going for about 130 naira equivalent per liter, right? Meanwhile, PMS is 160. People in Benin hardly, run their vehicle on gasoline. But we're going to add LPG, we're going to add LNG, right? So that you give people a choice, and government can now deregulate. So you drive into a filling station, you're going to see, PMS maybe 350 naira once you have a completely deregulated regime, but you're also going to have a CNG, that will go for about maybe 120, 130 naira per liter equivalent, and LNG that goes about maybe 150 naira per liter. So this is what we, aim to achieve. Now, what have we done on the pricing? The next thing we did was that we sat down with IOCs. We held meetings with them, and said, look, you guys, we cannot continue to afford a situation whereby you are exporting LNG. I've never really truly been, an admirer of the LNG, thing. Yeah, we earn some few dollars from LNG. But if you look at, the quantum of money that actually comes of LNG, vis-a-vis the impact it will have on domestic, economy, you could see that we could make, do with a lot of LNG for domestic market and for export. So we sat down with them and we said, look, what we want is an EPP, an export parity pricing, right? If LNG Train 7 could do with $1.3, why should local manufacturers, the power sector, buy molecules at $3.5? Why should industrialists buy at $7? We just couldn't understand this. So we kept on fighting. It was really tough. It wasn't easy. And gradually, all stakeholders are coming to a point whereby now it's even coming down to about $1. And people like Total Support, are following, the path of Greenville, in Rumuji, and building mini energy plants. And we hope before the end of this year, when the Boni border bridge will be completed, we're discussing with Nigerian LNG to even allow the loading of LNG by truck. So this is how we're able to address the issue of pricing. So let me, at this point, round up by saying it's been most difficult because what we have done, another challenge we have is that under this new regime, the country today has less than 500 technicians and engineers that can do conversion. So you can imagine if you had to take the millions of vehicles in this country, that should be converted to migrate from gasoline, to the CNG, LPG. We have less than 500. So what did we do to address that issue? We started with Anambra State in December. We went to Anambra State. We partnered with Innoson Motors. And then we started a program of training engineers, for 3 months, so that we train them the principles and practice of conversion. We went to Ekiti in February. We're doing the same thing. As we speak, Anambra is trained, the first set of graduates are going to be ready by end of this month. 600, 100 from each of the Southeast states. The next, training, we're training them on diagnostics. After diagnostic, they will now move into the conversion, training course. And we're relying, on people like Total Support, Greenville, NIPCO, who have already been doing conversion, to train the trainers. February this year, we moved into Ekiti. April, we moved into Imo State. And unfortunately, suddenly the insecurity blossomed and we had to now beat a retreat. And we're going to start again in July. So what we're doing essentially is that we're now partnering with the states. We go to a state, we do an energy enumeration in the state. We say, okay, look, what are your issues? Let me give you a simple example of Ekiti State, what we did. We got to Anambra State in December. Anambra State was building an airport. We said, okay, fine, look, what are you going to do with this airport? How are you going to be energized? They say, NEPA, we say, no, drop it. We call Total Support. Dr. Obani is the president of the VGN, the Virtual Gas and Integrated Gas Association of Nigeria, partner with Anambra State and provide power. The same thing with the Air Force. We say, okay, Total Support in the Air Force bases in Port Harcourt, the airport, you provide power, okay? The same thing with industries. So we went to Ekiti. We got to Ekiti, we did an energy enumeration. We said, what you need? Afia Babalola University alone requires 2.5 megawatts. Ekiti is a landlocked state that is not connected, with anything, and there's no energy. So what we did, we went to Ore, and we know the Escravos Lagos pipeline. So we got another company called Gasco Marine. As I speak, the FID is being completed to do a 110 kilometer from Ore through Osun State, through Ondo State to hit, Ekiti State, so that and it's private sector. All this is private sector. We refuse to have anything to do with state, finance project. We want the state to facilitate, but the private sector to be the one that really put in their money. And it's been working very well. We went to, what do you call it, Imo State. We visited an industrial estate that has been there for the last 30 years looking for power. And we all know Imo State also having some gas fuel somewhere. The same thing with Anambra from Ogbaru, okay, so these are the things we're doing with the states, It's been most difficult, especially because the NGP is not funded. Zero budget, not a single cent, but nonetheless, we have great people, VGN members, sometimes are the one that even pay for the halls we use, for our sensitization. It's so interesting, and if there's been any time I was ever in doubt that Nigerians are truly patriotic, honestly, it was when I took on this job of this National Gas Expansion Program. We've run the program for the last 18 months without a single problem. No member is paid. Dr. Obani knows were not hardly even refunded our flight tickets. So you can imagine, you know, it was only the DPR that came on and said, okay, look, listen, the chairman for you will pay you, you know, to refund your transport fares and so on and so forth. But it's been quite interesting, you know. At this point, I thank you very much. I hope I have not bored you with unnecessary, you know, rhetorics, and I'm available for some of the comments, criticisms, and questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Wow. Let me clap on behalf of everybody else in the audience. This is really wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. You sounded like as I think Fumi put it on our chat group, the dictionary of the Nigerian gas expansion program. But thank you for the willingness to go into a lot of detail in the things you've said. I'm not going to take any time in trying to summarize what you've said. I believe everybody was listening. But one thing that it's brought out is that there are opportunities. And I hope that as we listen, the ladies on the call and the gentlemen on this call, that will take advantage of these opportunities. Ladies, please put your comments on the chat, in the chat box. But we're hoping that we'll have enough time at the end, about an hour, so that everybody can, we can have some time to dialogue as well, not just taking the comments. But Dr. Ibrahim, thank you, thank you, thank you. If there was a word better than thank you, I think that's a word that I will be using this evening. Thank you very much, in spite of the short notice, for speaking. I don't know if we should take questions now, but perhaps we'll let Dr. Ubani present and then take the questions at the end. Or we could take some questions now and then Dr. Ubani presents. Either way, I'm open, but I don't know, Dr. Ubani, what do you think? We want to make this as informal as possible.
Oh yes, it's good for it to be informal. Maybe I'll present, because typically when we go to events like this, myself, Dr. Ibrahim, we take questions from the floor. So maybe I should go ahead and present. Some
Excellent.
of the questions on my presentation, he will be answering actually.
Oh, great. Okay, so we'll yield the floor to you, because I really want to save the time, so maximize time for the Q&A and the discussion. So I yield to you, Dr. Ubani. Well, please let me tell you a bit about Dr. Ubani before we start. I can't resist reading a bit of his profile. He's going to bring in a private sector perspective. He's the president of Total Support Energy Group. He's a Schlumberger certified professional electrical and electronics engineer, an alumni of the University of Nigeria, and has a PhD from Harvard. He has many professional affiliations which span across several sectors in the industry. And when you read his profile, he has a long list of awards and recognitions of the contributions he has made to the industry. It's really a privilege to have him speak to us. He's currently involved in, as you heard Dr. Ibrahim say, in the IPP, CNG, and LNG flare-out projects for the Ozoro and Midwestern oilfield communities. He's also involved in the nationwide rollout of the NGEP, particularly to do with LNG and CNG storage, logistics and storage infrastructure for nationwide gas delivery. And as you heard there, he's the president of the Virtual and Integrated Gas Association of Nigeria. I hope I got that right. Virtual Gas Integrated Association of Nigeria. I think it will be very interesting listening to him, bringing in a private sector perspective and helping us to maybe zero in on how we can take part, look at the opportunities across the value chain and tech part. So Dr. Ubani, I yield the floor to you and look forward to very, very insightful presentation. I've had a sneak preview, but I'll hold my breath and let my sisters and brothers on the call also enjoy. So but over to you, Dr. Ubani. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yona. It's really my pleasure to be here. For me and Dr. Ibrahim, it's a little bit like a national assignment, which is self-assigned. So it may look like a burden, but we really enjoy doing this. And the reason is simple. for some of us in our late 50s and early 60s, this nation actually gave us a lot. So you could say it's time to give back. Some of us also have some issues that are very close to our hearts. One of them being our youth, the other one being gender diversity. This country practically wastes the female talent we have, and that must stop. It's not a matter of debate. If we want to progress as a nation, we need to deal with that. I'm going off script a little bit here. I know the theme for today is to really shine a light on the opportunities that is going to arise from this, will I call it workshop, interaction, dialogue, but we are really, really pleased to be here. Eyono, could you put this on or can I share my screen?
Please share your screen. I think Asanimo has made you a co-host, so you can share.
Okay, great. Let me get that done. Where were we? Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes, we can. Yes, I can see your screen. Yes.
Okay, great. I think for us to really understand what we're dealing with, we need to know where we are as a nation today. It's not a pretty place, but we still need to know exactly where we are. And I'm going to just spend some time here, talk about the gas issues, power, liquid fuels, the effect of all these relative positions where we are have on our revenue. And last but not the least, youth unemployment. Let's take gas to start with. We have less than 1% of the desired natural gas footprint. A lot of people take this for granted, but seriously, we're a gas nation. We just happen to have some oil as a consequence of the gas. So to have less than 1% pipeline footprint is almost criminal. The small 1% that we have, less than 50% of it is contracted and available. We all know gas flaring is active, ongoing. Yes, the National Flare Gas Commercialization Program is trying to address that. NGEP, of course, is trying to address that. The NGFCP program basically is to take the gas we are currently flaring, give it to people to make it available to the market. The NGEP is to take that gas and get it to people. Now, if you think about this from a business perspective, it means making sure you have supply assurance, and at the other end is demand assurance. In the middle of it, you have all kinds of project delivery assurance, and we'll dig into this in a little bit more detail. And this is important for the theme of the meeting today, the opportunities. Now, we all know gas flaring creates unacceptable wastage and pollution. In terms of virtual pipeline, which basically is LPG, CNG, LNG, we are doing way less than 1% of where we need to be. Do we use natural gas as vehicular fuel? No. If you have less than 10,000 vehicles out of over 15 million vehicles, you're not doing well at all. And even this less than 6,000, they're using gas in fits and starts, so that's not good. And then As the chairman pointed out, we currently have discretionary gas pricing. That's not good. We are trying to regiment and make sure the gas pricing is correct, especially the input gas pricing. For power, I don't need to say a whole lot on power. Every Nigerian knows how inadequate we are with power. Our networks are weak, very weak capacity, very weak reach as well. And our distribution networks, you all know the story of that. It's obsolete, inadequate, it leaks like crazy, very inefficient. And that's the reason we are one of the world's biggest diesel generator markets and petrol generators as well. Liquid fuels, we all know the story. We used to refine enough for our use. When our refineries died, we started importing. So we end up exporting crude raw materials and we import finished products. As if that was not bad enough, we also subsidize it. And the effect on this economy is probably the single biggest negative impact we have on our revenues, on our budgeting, on our leakages. We'll dig into that a little bit as well. If you look at what we are doing today, we send out crude, we import petrol, we sell it less than what we import it for. This is clearly not sustainable. Of course, by doing this, government revenue disappears in paying for subsidy. And of course, when you have this type of regime, it's going to be fraught with scams, fraud, as we all know. All the nations around us, they pay above 350 naira per liter of fuel, petrol or diesel. So it is claimed we consume millions and millions of liters per day. The truth on the ground is what is stated that we consume, we actually consume less than 10% of that. And the reason is simple. If we are subsidizing it, we are subsidizing the whole West African sub-region. But let's park that on one side. One thing that terrifies me and my chairman is the issue of youth unemployment. We are sitting on gunpowder. The NSAS we just experienced is child's play. If we do nothing, we will have no country to talk about. I've told you a lot of bad stories, but the reason we are here today is to look at the opportunities that will arise if we do something. So this actually creates some serious opportunities to do serious good. And one of the reasons we're very excited to be here with you, many people have accused me and Dr. MM of being very biased to women. Yes, we have no apologies for that. And for me, it's personal. I was raised by my grandma and 4 other powerful mothers. So I acutely understand the wastage of more than 50% of the human capacity we have. I am particularly proud to see the caliber of women we have here today. So it gives us hope. We cannot afford to give up. And it puts a lot of responsibility on the women here in this house today. We are actually rooting for you. We are actually expecting a lot from you. After this meeting today, we are probably going to adopt you as automatic members of Virtual Gas and unofficial members of NGEP. And we're not doing it just because we like women. We're doing it because if you don't come on board, the train will not move. And I'm not saying this lightly. In one or two slides down, we will look at the indices that make a nation move. When you see nations that are successful, there are some key parameters that you will say, okay, these are the characteristics of successful nations, but we'll get to that. So these opportunities are there, and we're going to look at them end to end. Now, where should we be going? What should we be doing? We know our problems with gas. So the thing to do immediately is put a cap on flaring and subsequently ban it. The ongoing NGFCP, that's the Nigeria Gas Flare Commercialization Program, and the NGP program is well on its way to address that. We need to quickly increase the footprint of our distribution pipelines for domestic use. This is very important. We spent billions of dollars doing associated gas gathering to feed NLNG. All that project is feeding foreign markets and completely ignoring the domestic market. That is not acceptable. We need to build out virtual pipelines. I like to compare virtual pipelines to the cellular phones we have today. Technology is on our side, so we must make sure we use it. The quickest way we can get gas to every nook and corner of this country is move it by CNG, LNG, and LPG. The opportunity to create jobs it happens to be highest in this small segment. And we will dig into this in more detail so that people who have the interest can see where the opportunities lie. Of course, we need to update our existing gas regulations, the permitting process. Mercifully, DPR has stepped up. I've dealt with so many government agencies, and DPR really, really blows me away. I'm not saying this because Duruji is my friend, but if there's any government parastatal that has truly, truly reformed, DPR is it. So they need to be encouraged. And how can we encourage them? It will be by delivering some of these projects they supervise and regulate, and make sure the dividends get to the people. Power is one of our biggest problems. Here we are as a nation, we burn close to 6,000 megawatts on a daily basis. It practically goes up in smoke. It doesn't just go up in smoke, it ends up polluting the environment. I know communities that has been living in shadow of flare gas for the last 50 years. And let me just describe a little bit what happens when you live in the shadow of flare gas. We all know about photosynthesis and all that. You will have greenery. You will have things grow green all the time. So there's no night, there's no day. These things are growing luxuriantly green, but they do not produce fruit. So we have a situation that is also clearly injurious and not sustainable. So we need to take this gas and convert it to power. We have too much gas, we're wasting it. We are power deficient. So we need to bring those two together and align them so we have a win-win. One way to do that is take this gas, process it, move it to every local government, and create power islands that work. Once we create the power islands, the fuel will get there. Once the fuel gets there, we should be able to start using them for vehicular use. As things start today, we can deliver gas nationwide anywhere from 25 to 50% cheaper than petrol and diesel. Why are we not doing it? That's a question the government has not answered. Is it rocket science? Hell no. Even if it was rocket science, there are many Nigerians who understand it. So if we have a political will, we'll roll up our sleeves, deploy all the resources we have, especially a lot of the women I see in this forum today. Within 30 months, we will get there. How much will it cost us to get there? Not a whole lot. If we deploy less than 10% of the money we waste on fuel subsidy, we will be there in 30 months. But let's park that. Gas to vehicular fuels, this same gas we're wasting, we can easily use it to replace petrol and diesel at costs below 150 naira. And when you can do that, you will be able to yank off fuel subsidy, which is the biggest drain and the biggest line item on our expense list. So we have problems. The solutions are lying right next to the problems. We need to get to it and address them. To get there, of course, we need creative funding mechanisms. For private industry to invest, they have to have a clear line of sight from what do we do, what will we get, how do we do it. All these talents are resident locally. We do not need Chinese or Indians or Europeans or Americans. These are things Nigerians can do. And let me sound a little note of warning. If we do not step up and do these things, our Indian brothers and Chinese brothers and Europeans will step in and do them. And when they do them and start reaping the benefits, we should shut our mouths up. So I'm challenging everyone in this house to please listen to the bit we have to say and step up and invest in any of these segments that we point out. You will probably discover more than we know. So during question and answers, please feel free. I have begged the chairman today, we want to throw the questions and answers open. We will be with you for as long as you want. Not just talking, what can we deliver in 12 months, in 24 months, maybe in 30 months? Some of the things we have been telling government, we say, look, education is important. So start solving our problems from our educational institutions. So we told them, take all federal universities off grid, take all major markets off grid, take all armed forces barracks off grid. Maybe number one should be take all flare gas communities off grid. Nationwide use of natural gas as vehicle and generator fuels. This will give us a cleaner and cheaper alternative fuel. And also now give them the impetus to take away this subsidy regime, which is killing us. We should now be able to create islands that work nationwide. Once we create these islands, the only thing they can do is grow. Of course, we all know where the world is heading, to net zero. For the foreseeable future, gas will still remain a factor. When we go electric, that electricity needs to be generated. Yes, we must have a mix of gas-fueled power and other renewables like solar, wind, hydro. And these are things we have in great quantity and availability in Nigeria. We have all kinds of rivers, we have wind, we have solar. So if we have a mix, that's the way to go. The immediate benefits are clear. We have already touched on some of them, so I will not waste time on this slide, except to mention that if we do what we are proposing, in the next 30 months, we would have created north of 2 million jobs, maybe 3 million or more. We are sure that Nigerians are creative. They will even find ways to create more jobs than we are thinking today. So, what we also did at the beginning of all this, we do realize that government are not good business people. So as NGP was created, we also created Virtual Gas Integrated Association of Nigeria, which is basically a private sector-driven part of NGEP. And we decided that membership should be experienced companies that are already on ground and performing. Our membership has a strong bias to truly Nigerian companies. We welcome people who are brave enough to come here and invest money, but the truth of the matter, and we do not have to apologize for it, we want to encourage Nigerian participation in what is about to happen. We want to encourage strong female input, and I will get to that shortly. NGEP, this presentation, we've sent it to Ayono, so she will circulate the full presentation because we will jump through some of them so we can get to question and answers. This slide summarizes the objectives of the NGEP program, which my chairman has described in a little bit more detail. Now, all these solutions we're trying to provide, we have to make sure that in providing these solutions, we don't create new difficult problems. So we set some parameters which they must meet. We said these solutions must be safe. They must be repeatable. By repeatable, I mean we should be able to get our people to copy and paste. And when you copy, you can modify and improve on it. The solutions have to be sustainable. It should not be a one-off. It has to be solutions that our people can embrace and sustain it for the long haul. We are not famous for maintenance. So whatever solutions we design, we must make them maintainable. Whatever we deploy, we must make sure our people can maintain it. All this grammar, if it's not cost effective, it won't go anywhere. So if we are saying we want to use gas and the gas is costing 400 Naira, it will be dead on arrival. So it must be cost effective. It must also be reliable and it has to be available. It needs to be environmentally compliant. We don't want to solve a problem by polluting more than what we are currently doing. So a best outcome will be where we are killing these flares and giving our people fuel and power. And that's what we expect will happen. Of course, we expect the impact to be high. Not just high, it has to be positive, net positive impact. We want to see serious employment generation. We want to see serious drop in pollution. We want to see activity. We want to see increase in our GDP. So our impact is very, very up there. Now let's talk about some key development indices and general markers for any nation to say, we are progressing. Name it, or be it Finland, UK, Singapore. These markers are facts. if you do not have good education as a nation, you're not going anywhere. So we need to make sure we fund education, not just theoretical education, practical education too. We have to fund our healthcare. We have to make sure we are energy sufficient. And this is one area that we are so deficient that it is shameful. Gender equality, diversity, and sensitivity. A lot of people think that this is a joke. The truth of the matter is, if we do not use the women in Nigeria, that means we throw away more than 50% of our human capacity, as I said earlier. So we are happy to be amongst you. We root for you. We expect a lot from you, and we will support you in any possible way we can. We joke a lot, me and Dr. about this. The salvation of this nation actually rests on your shoulders. We are there puffing out our chests as men. The truth of the matter is, we're not going anywhere if you guys don't give us a good, healthy nudge, and in some places, in many instances, actually lead the charge. And we have to allow our economy to be largely driven by private industry, as elsewhere. America, UK, Japan, you name, or any country that is advancing or has advanced, you will find out that even their politics is driven by what private industry wants. And we need to get there quickly. In Nigeria today, government is the main business. That needs to change. And that change has to come from all the people in this house. We need to drive it. And driving it means leading by example. And that's one of the reasons we said, okay, we've talked enough. Let's show that these things are doable by actually doing it and showing fellow Nigerians that this thing can be done, and done in a commercially sensible manner. Shortly, we will go and just take a look at some of the pictures of projects we have delivered, which will be great examples for people to copy and paste. Of course, security, without security, you're not going anywhere. But if you think about it, all these number 1 to 7, if we don't deal with them, we will end up with security challenges like we have today. Of course, ease of doing business is an index. We are so bad there as well. So hopefully we will get better with your help. If you notice, I've minimized number 10 a little bit. Minimize corruption. There is no nation in this world where corruption does not exist. But if you get 1 to 9 right, corruption will be minimized. And proper way to do things will become the norm. Today, number 10 is like the norm in Nigeria, and that needs to change too. Let's look at the opportunities. This slide, we've tried to show end to end what NGEP is all about and all the opportunities. If you look at this schematic, we are going from wellhead to end user. Classic example, let me take Kwale. We've mobilized to site there. We're going to make power for the immediate communities. We're going to make CNG. We're going to make LNG. I'd like you guys, this house, to just be patient with me. Follow me for a while so you can see where all the opportunities, all the jobs and things are. you will probably come up with better creative ideas on how we can amplify these things. By providing power for our immediate community, we empower their productivity. It will multiply by more than 10 times. Kwale community, as of today, in a good month, a whole month, they get 25 to 30 hours of power from the Benin Disco. And their cost is close to 52 naira is their tariff today. By taking the flare gas from Midwestern Oil, we will be able to give them power in the 40s, and that power will be 24/7. They will have meters, employment. This power will provide employment for over 200 Kwale citizens. But more important, it will enable small, medium-scale enterprises to be productive. It will enable them to be energy efficient. Because they are metered, they will learn not to waste energy. Now, this is just power. We'll make CNG. That CNG will go to power nearby community, provide fuel for nearby IPPs. So you see a situation where maybe Kwale is paying 40 naira for fuel. The town 10 kilometers away from Kwale may be paying 42 naira for power. Like that, at the end of the day, you want to provide power for the entire Delta state and environment below what the grid is currently charging them, and the grid power is not even there. But once we make this LNG, CNG, LPG, we bring it to a hub. The people producing this LNG, CNG, LPG, these are people like Greenville, people like us, Total Support. There are other members of VGN like NIPCO and Co that are doing the same thing. We will all start moving these molecules to where it is needed, and economic activity will just revolutionize the economy of our villages, not to talk of towns. So there is so much that will happen beyond just provision of employment for our youths. If our youths are busy, they will have no business with crime. If you go to the end user, you will see there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of jobs that will be created at the other end. Just imagine where we have power and fuel islands that work in 774 local governments of this country. Each local government, you will create 50 to 100 jobs. And that's directly connected with the fuel and power infrastructure. Indirectly, you will create over 150 to 200 jobs in each local government. So you start to get the idea of what we're trying to achieve here, and to understand why we need you desperately. The market is huge. Look at the size of the market, it's nationwide. So you can see the magnitude of the problem. You can see the magnitude of the opportunities. What will make this thing succeed? Critical success factors. DPR is way up there, and DPR is ready. So DPR will not be a reason for this thing not to succeed. Credible Nigerian project promoters and drivers. If all you powerful women in this forum pick out a niche you want to do, you will find that other young women will follow you. And even many young men will follow you. If we keep ourselves busy, we will be able to outcompete the Indians, outcompete the Chinese, outcompete the Americans or Europeans. I have worked practically everywhere on this planet. The average Nigerian is way smarter than most people. So we have no reason to waste our talent that God has given us for free. So just to put some things in numbers, and these numbers are conservative. This is looking at a state like Ekiti. When we went there, we told them, you can have CNG in 4-6 months. They thought it was a joke. We demonstrated it. If Ekiti can do it, every other state can do it. So you will see that if we're serious as a nation, in the next 30 to 36 months, fuel subsidy will be a thing of the past. Our unemployment issue will be largely reduced. And these things we're talking about is entirely within our power. We don't need rocket science, political will to achieve them. I think I've talked enough. Before you sleep, let me just show you some pictures so that we understand that these things are doable. Here is my able chairman, here is the minister, my humble self. This is a complete CNG filling station, young Nigerians in my outfit built from ground up, and is designed to dispense CNG. Here is a complete power island. Here is a 1 megawatt power station. Here is a refueling station. For a lot of you who are business people, you understand that we need this power to be here to attract the fuel here. Once the fuel gets here, it becomes easier to take some and use for vehicular fuel. This is our CNG mother station in Port Harcourt. I've noticed I have quite a few sisters like Patricia from Port Harcourt that are here. So, Pat, I'm challenging you to do something in Port Harcourt too. Here is a picture of President commissioning Ariaria Market in Aba. Ariaria Market, we've switched them from using over 4,000 diesel and petrol generators to having their IPP and dropping their energy cost by more than half. So is it doable? The answer is a definite yes. We have done it. We are willing to teach anybody who wants how to do it, because the truth is we cannot be everywhere in Nigeria, but we want Nigerians to be everywhere in Nigeria. So this was commissioned in January 19. It's been running very well since then. We have not even covered the entire market. But just to give you an idea what we have done, the market woman who used to spend 600 naira every day just for fuel, which she will use on her Pass My Neighbor, maybe 3-4 hours of light. Today, she has 10-11 hours of solid light, and it's costing her 200 naira, no more. So in her own case, she's saving way over 60-70% of her energy cost. We have dropped the noise pollution by 92%. We have dropped the actual pollution by over 96%. So these things are doable. And Ariaria has been running since January 2019. I wouldn't say we are making tons of money, but we are not losing money. This is a picture of the IPP. More projects. We did this for Uniport to demonstrate that our universities can be taken off grid. Before we did this project, Uniport was spending 70 million plus monthly on energy and generally powering themselves for 13-14 hours. We implemented this project, dropped their cost below 50 million for 24/7 light. So it's doable. companies who know don't go back. We've been powering Schlumberger facilities since 2012. Same with Indomie. Indomie, we have been powering since 2013. So these things are doable. Like I said, it's not rocket science. We have from Nigeria here designed gas generators that will burn anything you feed it. But because the environment here is not always conducive, we've had to test these things out in Texas to make sure they will work. These are some of them. These generators are just arriving in Nigeria now for deployment. The first set of deployment will be in Kwale. And this is what it will look like. So here are some more pictures. They're all in the presentation we have sent to you. We'd like you to take a look at them, see where you can plug in. If you have questions, we are here, we will answer it. The market is so big. The issue is not competition. The issue is how do we collaborate to satisfy this market? And like I warned earlier, if we do not step up, our Indian brothers and Chinese brothers will step up. Let me stop here so that we can dive into questions. From the questions, we'll go into as much detail as possible. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ubani. Thank you for, I mean, I was just sort of glued to what you were saying. Thank you very much. I think we will pause here for some question and answers before we take on Elvis, who I think has been able to join us now. So I'm very conscious of time, so I'm not going to take up any time by trying to summarize what you've said. I believe, ladies, that you've listened, but the things that have resonated is that the country needs us. We have what it takes, we have the capacity. If there are challenges with how we get together, how we fund, then that might be something else that Wayne can facilitate for us to look at as a group. But what it takes, we have, some of us are already doing it, and Nigeria needs you. So please, I'm going to throw the floor open. I have not seen any questions in the chat group. So if you have your hands up, you have a comment, you want to ask a question, I think this is the time to do that. But before we go into question and answer, I'd just like to call on our president, Fumi, to say a few words and to sort of lead the question and answer, the opening of the Q&A comment dialogue section. Fumi.
If it's okay with you, there's something very important I forgot to mention.
No problem.
In the course of all this, we did acutely realize that funding is a problem. We can thank our chairman and the minister and quite a few others who went to the president, went to CBN and said, look, if you want this thing to work, you have to make low interest money available to Nigerians so they can participate. That money is there. They have assigned 250 billion as intervention fund for NGEP projects. I'm drawing your attention to this because we need you to start knocking on the door. There are guidelines. I will send you a link to the CBN guidelines so that you understand what this money is for, so you can prepare yourselves to assess it. Unfortunately, the window is narrow. So we need to hurry up, understand what it is. NGEP is there to help you. I personally am open. Talk to me, talk to chairman. The NGEP secretariat is there to guide you. But like I said, first of all, decide where the niche you want to plug in. I just want you to know that government has gone beyond talking. They have actually provided some intervention funds, and they said if it is used properly, they will up it. Now, one thing to be aware of, which has been a problem in Nigeria, we as Nigerians, we must tell ourselves the truth. We are not very good with documentation. So we need to really sit down and start to document and package what we want to do properly, so that when we go to CBN, the demands are rigorous. We want to be able to pass muster. An NGEP committee is there to help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim and Dr. Ubani. I've sat here and I felt very grateful that this day is happening for two reasons. The first reason is, a lot of what we say in WIEN is that Nigeria is like a human being that is hopping on one foot. And how far can you really go when you are trying to run a 100-meter dash hopping on one foot? And you gentlemen have come here today, and it's as if you've been members of WIEN and you have heard us saying, really, this country cannot go very far. And we have taken the challenge upon ourselves that we want to work for national development. So for that one point, I'm very grateful that you are here. On the second point of talking to us about opportunities in NGEP and the virtual pipeline association. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, what is this? Which one is virtual pipeline again? Gas is an area that I'm very interested in. So having listened to these presentations where it's almost like a blueprint, it's perhaps the clearest presentation of opportunities I have ever listened to. It's very clear. And I think women, let us, let's ask all our questions. Let's take advantage of having not only champions for women, but people who are willing to share knowledge, who have spent the last 2 hours, I think, 2 hours, giving us an expose. I think as, who was it? I think it was Audrey that said we're being given an expo. So let's take advantage of this opportunity and ask all our questions, and let's adopt them as honorary WIEN members, and we also take advantage of the membership that has been offered. But I don't think there's any stupid question today. Let's ask everything that we want to ask, and let's learn, and let's have enough information to be able to jump to action post today for those of us that have interest in gas. All of us should have interest in gas, really. So I'm going to throw the floor open and call on all of us to ask our questions and provide comments so that we can make this session interactive. Thank you.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much for me. So the floor is open. If you want to ask any questions, any clarifications, there is no stupid question. That's a factor. I think that's the first rule of thumb, but we might just learn from your questions, and we might learn from whatever it is, whatever comments you have to add. So the floor is open. Please, if you want to ask a question, if you raise your hands or just unmute and ask the question.
I think I will start with my question. When I was listening to Dr. Bani, one thing that kept going through my head, because in the area of gas, I've kind of been worried about how to start. So when I saw what you were doing, Dr. Bani, I said, can I just not be a distributor in your ecosystem? How can you sort of talk to us about how some of the what are the mechanics for distributing those CNG generators? You know, do you have like a franchise system or a distributor system, or how would you, you know, sort of encourage new entrants who need a lot of hand-holding?
That's a great question, actually. I'm sure I'll answer one part of it, and Chairman will answer the other part of it. Let me take a specific example. For me, let me start from either your local government or even your village. If you decide, okay, this my village, they don't have power, I need to provide power for them, you can set up a commercially viable IPP. We will, for instance, supply LNG to you. We may even sell the power generator to you. We will help you set up that IPP so that you can run it. One of the things we are doing offline is to train entrepreneurs how to set these things up and run them properly, like utility. So it goes beyond being a distributor. We want you to be a service provider so that you can employ people. And in the process, they will learn. You don't have to be an engineer to do this. We will train your technical staff, and then we will create the ecosystem where the business skills that go with any particular type of project that you are interested in will thrive. It may not be an IPP, it could be an LPG distribution system. What we are trying also to do is to crash the price of LPG. In the course of producing LNG, we actually produce LPG first. So these small plants are going to produce LPG, they will produce LNG, there will be CNG. So there are tons of opportunities for want of a better word, distribution. But we would like you to go beyond distribution and create ecosystems and businesses that we will even look at you going further to say, okay, I've set this one up, I need to set up branches. Chairman, I don't know, I'm sure you have something to add there.
Okay, the chairman has asked that you take his own questions because he was struggling with his connection.
Oh,
so
okay.
He's asked that you please take his own part of the questions, yeah.
Okay, Fumi, I don't know if I addressed that enough.
You know, I think there are three parts of what you've said that I think have struck me. The fact that, you know, we can start with a small area, you know, be a service provider, yeah. Train our people, and then maybe go into production ourselves. I mean, that's yeah.
Let me even give you small examples. We have localized things like converting small pass my neighbor generators. Instead of running on petrol, they're able to run either on petrol or gas. Gas being LPG, CNG, or LNG. these are skills that we can teach local mechanics. Someone has to sell that gas to them at the local level. And we want the ecosystem to evolve in such a way that we want Nigerians to account for 95% of this ecosystem. Of this 95%, we would like to see women account for 50% or more. The ecosystem is massive. It goes from things like the gas itself. There is a conversion kit. There is power aspect of it. The fuel aspect of it is there. And all the other things. All these businesses will need accountants. They will need business modeling. They will need all kinds of ancillary services for them to thrive. So it's not just technical. There is ample room for soft services to develop as this evolves, because everything is not technical. If you don't have the business support, it won't grow.
Yeah, a lot of gas businesses are not bankable. So it's very interesting to see, a lot of them, you can't see them end to end. So it's interesting to see the model where you sort of almost start from the customer. You start from who are you selling to, and then you work back.
That's a very valid observation. Globally, gas for vehicular fuels is not bankable, it's not commercially viable. And that's one of the reasons we said, to solve that problem, let's create power islands that demand the volume of gas that makes it bankable. Once that gas gets there, then vehicular use, fuel for generators, it becomes bankable, because you now take away the burden of bringing the gas from point A to point B. You move it away from the vehicular side and you move it to the power generation side. So that's how we have creatively solved that bankability problem.
Okay, I have a question. Thank you very much, Doctor. You talked about, you kept harping on we should identify our areas of interest and then begin to walk the process from there. This is, for a lot of us, this is a first time of really listening to it. I don't know who said that. This is probably one of the clearest I've heard end to end on what the gas expansion program is doing. So first time I've listened, lots of things, lot to take in 1 hour. What would guide my selecting an area of interest? And if I did that, does the Secretariat have services that would help with walking one through the sort of documentation that's required, where we start from, sort of hand-holding? Is there something we could work with you to make available to help as many here as our entrepreneurs who want to step in and first guide us in that selection and then walking that process?
That's another great question. And this is in general. I started running businesses very early and very young. So I've made tons of mistakes. But I always tell people, if you have someone who can nudge you away from those mistakes, you must make sure to hold that person tight. NGP Secretariat is also evolving. So we are growing capacity, but a lot of the required capacity is resident in members of VGN. So if we know where you want to go, we will gladly attach you to a mentor that will make sure you don't make the mistakes we had made and recovered from. So hand-holding is a given. Is it existing today? Not all of it, but as this moves along, we are all going to grow along the way. But the point is, yes, there will be hand-holding. Yes, you should, you can be, being fearful is healthy actually, but you should not be terrified. You need to know that, yes, you have people out there who will look out for you. Are you going to make mistakes? Absolutely. But when you have mentors and handholders, those mistakes will not be catastrophic mistakes, so that you can always fall and get up, or someone will pull you up. So handholding will be there. What do you choose to do? My personal recommendation is look at something you're passionate about. Look at all the criteria we listed, I think 8 of them. There are more things you should look out for, but those 8, if you're able to check those boxes, you're well on your way. Bankability, of course, is very, very important. You don't want to depend on subsidy because subsidy is not sustainable. Once you check those boxes, even if you're only able to check 7 out of 8, you're in good shape. But first of all is you need to be passionate or excited about any area you want to go into, because that is really what will see you through the tough times. That excitement, that passion is what will not allow you to give up.
Okay, Damilola Owolabi has a question. Can you please unmute and talk through what you want to say? Damilola.
Hello, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go on.
Okay, I was just trying to ask about the gas generators. Are there regulatory requirements needed to deal in the supply of those gen sets or the equipment? Basically, for someone looking to trade in gas generators, are there regulatory requirements that are needed to bring in those kind of equipment?
Yes and no. For gas generators, just like diesel generators, if you're just buying and selling, you will bring your generators in, you will sell them. Now, if you're actually going to deploy them and use them, typically NEC requires you to have a license once you go above 1 megawatt. They are trying to raise it to 2 megawatts before you need a license, but they are not there yet. For today, 1 megawatt and above, you need a license. From above 100 kilowatts, 1,000 kilowatts make up 1 megawatt. From 100 kilowatts to 1 meg, you need a simple permit. The same thing goes for distribution network. If you're going to do a mini grid, you need a small mini grid network. One of the things we're building is like a OneDrive or a website. We are hoping by September it will be up, so that you can go there. It would be like a one-stop shop. You'll go and see where all the regulations are. For today, if you go to the NEC website, everything is there. It tells you when you require license, for what you need it for, the process of getting it. We have engaged with them to make that process simpler. Right now, some parts of it is a bit unwieldy and unrealistic. So we have to engage more with them to get there. And that's one of the reasons when I say we need you powerful women, we need all the ammunition we have. Right now, we are using less than 50% of the ammunition that should be available to us, and you are part of it.
Thank you very much. I don't know whose hands went off first, but Eraga, Daniel, I see your hand up. You have a question?
Yes, please. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel from Flash Gas Limited. I have a question, sir. You made mention of test running those generators in Texas because of the weather condition over there. Now, my question is, bringing those generators to Nigeria, what's I'm looking at our weather. I'm looking at the way it's going to function. What areas are we looking at in terms of problems, in terms of issues that might arise, looking at our weather in Nigeria as compared to Texas? Thank you.
Great question, Daniel. The reason we chose Texas is the weather is close to Nigerian weather, especially in summer. In fact, they end up with higher temperatures than us. And it rains a lot there. During winter, it gets much colder than Nigeria. So we said, okay, do we have places to test this? Texas is perfect because like us, they have flare gas. Unlike us, they already have regulation to force producers never to flare. So we had ready testing grounds. We also had ready markets to take the power. In fact, most of the power was used by the producer. The rest of the power, nearby communities or businesses came up to use them. And what we now found out, in the case of Texas, a lot of cell phone companies said, we have cheap power here. So they moved their data centers to places like that. So it was a good place to really torture test these generators before deploying them to Nigeria. It's easy to say, why did you not just bring it to Nigeria? Two reasons. Before we bring it here, we want to make sure that it works. We want to iron out all the teething manufacturing problems. Ultimately, we want to see them assembled and ultimately manufactured here down the road. There's no reason why we can't get there as quick as possible. So yes, we had to test them there. We had to try as much as possible to replicate the site conditions that we have here. Fortunately, all the site conditions we have here, they have. So that's why we chose Texas. It was not chosen arbitrarily, it was carefully selected.
Okay, thank you. Patricia has her hands up as well. Patricia, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the presentations that went on today. I think they've been very informative. And also thank you for the challenge. I'll take you up on that challenge and I'll probably pester you on it. I've already been looking into some of the solutions for gas or some of the opportunities that are arising for gas. And what keeps on coming up, first and foremost is the licensing and the ability or the challenges in obtaining licenses from DPR. That's number one. That seems to be also a problem with the normal obstacles and hurdles they put in place, and some kind of ridiculous requests. I know somebody is setting up just a little plant, just as a bottling plant, and he's had really a nightmare with DPR. So that is a real risk and threat that's there. Secondly, one would like to know as a business person, because of course we're driven by, at the end of the day, your return on investment because you're investing. Typically, what would the return on investment, I mean, how long would one be looking at in terms of for return on investments? I understand depending on where you're investing, obviously it's going to be different, but I guess typically what would we be looking at for the gas to power investment that you're talking about? Thank you.
Thanks, my wonderful sister. I may be partial to Patricia because she's my home girl. So let me address the ROI first. Not from an NGEP perspective, but from a banker's perspective. You want to have ROIs above 20% for your project to be bankable. Why 20%? If you think about it, if you go to borrow money from banks today, you're going to be dealing with 18, 19, 20, depending on what you're doing, it can get as high as 24. So you want an ROI that is higher than that after factoring in your borrowing costs as well. Generally, banks want to see you commit your own equity. They want to see this, that you have skin in the game. Typically, a bank will tell you to, yes, this project costs 100 naira. We expect that you put 30 naira of your own money, like 30%. The higher, the better. If you're going to have an ROI, my personal suggestion is aim for 25% and above. In terms of DPR, as I informed you, DPR, in my own personal opinion and observation, is probably the most reformed government outfit today. We deliberately made sure that DPR was part of NGEP. So if you have a project under the NGEP umbrella, the secretariat will follow you and pursue DPR and make sure you get your permits, if required, as quick as possible. We are actually trying to get a paid person to man a desk to pursue members' permit requests. So that will be addressed by NGEP itself beyond the normal new and improved DPR that we have today. So that's doable. And if you are going into things like power generation, you will be stepping outside DPR. You'll be dealing with people like NEC. You'll be dealing with people like NEMSA, MEMSA, all kinds of people. NGEP will be able to hold your hands so you can talk to some of these people. What we have found out is if you go by yourself, they start dribbling you. But if they know you have the weight of NGEP, virtual gas behind you, everybody pays attention and they will attend to you. That's one of the advantages of being part of something bigger than yourself. I don't know if I've answered the question.
Yes, you have. Just one part that you didn't answer. The length of time for the return on investment. I mean, what the duration? Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very important. Gas and power business are all long-term businesses. But just to give you an insight, by the time you build your business model, no matter how small the business is, we encourage you to build an actual model. This can be expensive and is one of the areas we're getting NGEP to also help people doing NGEP projects. If you build your basic model, NGEP should have tools to help you produce a bankable document. First, you convince yourself that this business is commercially viable, and it should be packaged in such a way that you present it to a bank or CBN if it's big enough. They should be able to say, yes, this girl has done her homework. So that way bankability is taken off the table and you can do as much as your talent will allow you. Now, timing, typically you want to be able to pay off your debt in 5 to 7 years. If you're able to pay it off earlier, the better. We have projects with that breaks even in 2-3 years. There are projects, gas and power projects like that. So it's site specific, if you like. So a lot depends on your input costs and your sales price and the efficiency of your process. So if you're very efficient, you have, for instance, cheap gas, your break-even will be much shorter. But typically, gas and power projects, worst case scenario, you want to make sure you break even in 4 or 5 years. Your year 5, 6, 7 should see you in serious blue or negative or black, not red. In fact, by year 2, typically your cash flow should be positive. Year 1 can be tricky. Year 1, no one expects you to be making money. So if you've done your business plan properly, typically you're even allowed to have a moratorium. If you borrowed money, they should not be expecting you to pay during construction, for instance. So you look at your construction period, you build it into your model. During that time, maybe you're paying just the interest portion of a loan you took. So that way, you'll be able to see that business end to end. I always strongly recommend that people actually do a model, even if the business you're doing is just 100,000 naira. Simulate it, test it, and sensitize it, because you can. I'll give you an example. Some people who make CNG buy gas at $7.50. Some, like Greenville, buy it at $1.30, and you're selling into the same market. So the only difference that can save you is if your process is so much more efficient than the other party that's getting cheap gas. So a lot of variables are in play here, and you need to look at all of them. You want to control as much of it as possible. Then when all your answers say, yes, this thing looks good, then you jump into it. But if you're going to be making money for all of the 7 years, no, you shouldn't be doing that. One of the things NGEP is trying to do in-house if they can, otherwise it will be outsourced to groups like Vigian. We are also trying to build that in-house capability, or negotiate a group deal with people like PwC, Deloitte, Ernst & Young. There are many small Nigerian companies who can build this model. So we started talking to them as a group, and they're actually very excited. So there is opportunity to do a whole lot.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you.
Excellent, and very refreshing to hear that with the hand-holding, navigating the permit space.
Yes, so
it's will not be a nightmare. Sophia has her hands up. Sophia, you want to take your question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you again, Doctor and Mr. Ubani, excellent presentations. My question, or rather questions, go to one. First of all, is there any existing arrangement sort of for angel investing? So there may be some women who are just interested in putting their money down. Yes, they understand the business model and the industry, but want to restrict themselves to just really equity investment. The second question is, what would you say to people who have concern about safety and this part of the value chain that you're promoting? We do hear randomly of some safety incidents, and because a lot in the space is now quite new. What do you say to someone who has these concerns yet still wants to go ahead and invest? And I think third and last would be, what's the average processing time for licenses? I know it can be site specific and dependent on where you're plugging in, but it would be nice to have some sense of timelines on average to build into whatever business model we want to develop. Thank you.
Sorry, Sophie, I missed a bit of your second question. First question, I know you talked about angel investing.
Correct.
The third question was process time for permits licensing. I missed the second question.
And the second question really is about this. What sort of safety concerns should we have at this time? And what would you say to anybody who says, look, this type of business sounds too risky. It has too many safety incidents to worry about. What would you have to say to them on that comment? Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. These are great questions. Let me take the safety concerns first. Lots of times when you say gas, people are thinking of cooking gas. It's very important to educate the house the different types of gases. LPG means liquefied petroleum gas. CNG means compressed natural gas. LNG means liquefied natural gas. LPG is taken out of natural gas. So an LPG can be made out of natural gas. In the process of making LNG, you also make LPG. Now, why are they different? In terms of, you have the things we call flammability, volatility, and all that, but let's break it down. If you took a glass of LPG, a glass of CNG, a glass of LNG, a glass of petrol, a glass of diesel, and you lined them up, this is what will happen. If you strike a match, the LPG will almost explode immediately. After some time, the petrol will catch fire. After quite a bit of time, the diesel may ignite. After a much, much extended time, and in the right conditions, the CNG and LNG will ignite. It's important to understand the science of these gases. LPG by itself is heavier than air. So if LPG leaks, it sits on the ground, and that's one of the things that makes it dangerous. So in your house now, if LPG leaks in your kitchen, it will just be on the floor and it will circulate on the floor. It turns out also that it is the one that the ignition temperature, the temperature at which it lights up or explodes, is the lowest. So that's one of the reasons you see LPG, you can smell it. In its natural state, it is odorless. But when they make LPG, they add what we call an odorizer, so that if it's leaking, you will smell it and you can take precaution immediately. Now, all these are gases, so you must respect them and follow all the safety rules for each and every one of them. Is LPG more dangerous than petrol? The answer is actually no. Statistically, LPG is about 2-3 times safer than petrol. CNG LNG is statistically 18 times safer. But as I said, what makes LPG very dangerous is because it's heavier than air. And most of the times, if you have one LPG accident, the whole world hears it. Every day you have petrol explosions or diesel spillage and it's killing people. You don't really hear about that. Now, that's the technical safety part of it. But once you take care of that, it's a relatively safe fuel compared to what we are currently doing with petrol and diesel. So you have to see it relatively. CNG LNG is way, 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 way safer. If CNG or LNG or natural gas as a whole leaks, it just rises up and evaporates. That's not a good thing. You don't want to do that because when you vent natural gas, it is also not good for our ozone layer. So that safety issue is there. You must respect gas as gas. So is it safer than petrol and diesel? The answer is yes. Angel investing, there are two ways to look at this. If you're a big, like equity venture capital house, of course, you would look at the business plan of the business. You would look at what impact does it have. It depends on the type of fund you're managing and you have access to. But if you're just a small-time personal investor, you have to look at, okay, this project promoter, how credible is that promoter? Has he done his homework? Does he have experience doing this? Does he come highly recommended? And this is one of the reasons an association like Vigian is good. Before you become a member, we make sure you understand what is at stake. We make sure you're not just there because you see money. We want to make sure you actually want to check all those boxes we created there. Now, if someone has checked all those boxes and is ready to roll, of course, he will come with a stamp of approval of the NGEP and even Vigian. So if you're an angel investor, a green flag will be where this business has the endorsement of organizations like this. It could be NGEP, it could be Vigian, it could be the Nigeria LPG Association. All these other associations are actually members of Virtual Gas Integrated Association. So we are trying to provide an umbrella that covers all. And like I said, it's still work in progress. We have a lot of mileage to cover, but we are not going to wait until we have all the tools and resources we need to deploy. We have deployed already, and we're going to get better as we move along. And we need you to be in the system so that holistically, the whole association can be lifted up to do much more than we're capable of now. Your third question, process time for licenses. Typically, if you approach NEC, it could be anywhere from 4 months to 6 months. It could drag into 1 or 2 years. I've seen licenses take 4 years to come. Why will it take so long? And that's where, before you seek for license, we want to see you prepared. Typically, if you know what is required and you've done your homework, you will find out that within 6 months, you have your licensing. And like I said, a lot also depends on the size of what you want to do. If it's below 1 meg, all you need is a simple permit that you can get in a month. So licensing is driven by how prepared you are and exactly what it is you're seeking licensing for. I'm not going to pretend that the Nigerian factor is not there, it is there. But what places like NGEP is there for is to minimize the corruption side of it. We are Nigerians, so sometimes we have to tell ourselves the truth. There are times where you have to do something uncomfortable to get the process moving. I don't know if I've answered all the questions for you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ubani. There is a last question, but perhaps one that will be properly answered after the DPR presentation, because the question is about what is involved if you want to get into gas processing. And I suspect that will include regulatory requirements. So I think it's a good time. Thank you very much, Dr. Ubani. It's a good time to, you've really loaded our brains this evening, but I think it's a good time to listen to DPR, just to close that loop, to listen to the regulator, to close that loop. A lot of us have lots of questions for DPR. But DPR, the Deputy Director Gas, Alhaji Aiwa Ibrahim, is very ably represented this evening by Engineer Elvis Duruji. Those of you who took part in the LPG sensitization workshop would have listened to his presentation focused on LPG. Elvis is a chemical engineer with a master's in gas engineering and management from the University of Salford in the Greater Manchester area of the United Kingdom. He is the manager gas operations DPR, and he has been with DPR for over 20 years. So I don't think there's anything about the regulatory part when it comes to gas that Elvis will not be able to talk to us about this evening. So Elvis, you're very welcome. I think you've joined, I hope you have joined us, but you're welcome. If you have, can you please unmute and I yield the floor to you. Elvis? I can see him online.
Hello, sorry.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a very good opportunity to be here. Women in energy, it's a big privilege. Please, just permit me to respect all the protocols that has been established. I missed Sir Ubani's presentation, very down to earth. I would have really liked to go through that process. Thank you once more. Duruji Elvis is my name. I'm actually here to stand in the gap for the Deputy Director Gas and the CEO, Department of Petroleum Resources. So I will be going through the decade of gas opportunities arising. I'll try and be as quick as possible. Maybe by the time you ask questions, I can go through that process, for further clarification. So decade of gas opportunity arising. So we will go through policy transition. I'll take you through where we all started. We didn't just start decade of gas, something would have happened. Then what are the natural inspirations that have actually brought the transition and aspiration that has brought us this far? Then we take a very quick look on our infrastructural position, our current infrastructural position. Then we'll look at, now go into the opportunities in the decade of gas. DPRO position for the infrastructural revolution that is about to take place in the next 10 years. Then we'll look at our current projects and what DPRO projection and what DPRO is doing about that. So quickly, assessing opportunities. If you look at opportunities, I'll go straight into the business. One thing is, first, you need to know the policy, the roadmap, government aspiration, direction, right? And that's exactly what we are doing here. We want to know where are we coming from, right? Then once you know the direction, okay, current status, where are we in the industry, right? What are the requirements and deficiencies? What are gaps? Once you identify gaps, very close to gaps, it's opportunity. Businessmen know that better. They look for gaps because they see opportunity very close. So as soon as you get to identify that, the investment, partnership, participation, all these are attributes you can bring in to manage those gaps and turn gaps, challenges into opportunities for investment. So we will take these upstream, midstream, and downstream as this value chain or supply chain will take a close look at. The policy transition, like I mentioned, the Nigerian Gas Master Plan, right? It's the document that has been there. It's something that even internally in DPRO is a document. We set up a system to begin to manage this plan. We don't just develop plan and abandon it after one section to the other because he has transited. What level have we achieved? Looking at all the pipelines and infrastructures, how many percentage of it have we got into? Domestic gas supply obligation, gas policy, these are documents that came after policies and directions to make the gas more transparent, measurable, scalable, and be able to manage that sector. Gas Transportation Network Code, the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program, we just saw the recently DPR awarded some operators were able to win some of this award. Then the LPG, deepening LPG penetration before the year of gas. The year of gas came in, which gave birth to the Nigerian Gas Expansion Program that eventually this year, it was declared the decade of gas. So all that is leading to most of the engagements and more you will see. Now, national aspiration for the oil and gas sector, drivers for investment and opportunity. We are going to focus more on gas, but when you hear oil and gas, you will maybe some part of this associated gas that will be coming out when oil is coming. So we are interested in the gas aspect. So one of those aspirations that is driving this decade of gas is gas to grow gas reserve to 210 TCF by 2030. This year we were able to achieve 206.53 TCF. That was a very good one. We have been exceeding most our target when it comes to reserve. Additional 10 billion standard cubic feet of gas production in the medium term required to meet the demand imperative of the decade of gas. Then in the midstream, gas monetization drive is key. Elimination of routine flare, very, very key. Right now we are we've commercialized it, so that's no longer targets. We are focusing more on making money out of it. Domestic gas supply sufficiency, right? That is another drive. This is our aspiration. We want to see how much we can get security of supply. Domestic gas producing capacity. This very, very important, such that we can reduce importation. Let us produce all our gas and use it. Let us be a net exporter of gas. That is the direction for the decade of gas. When it comes to the downstream, the drivers, aspirations, price freedom, market liberation. We've all learned our lessons from subsidy, you know, so government is too careful. Where you come up with anything that looks like subsidy, that is why it's difficult. There have been stories about auto conversion kits, buying of cylinders. Government want to bring in money to jumpstart, but government is a bit reluctant. I hope I'm not going to start what will continue forever and it will become a problem. So those are aspirations and trying to see how this could be managed. They are all challenges and opportunities. Integrated gas products, gas distribution networks, gas product supply sufficiency, all these, it's targeted towards the drivers of the decade of gas. So let's look closer to these drivers of decade of gas more. Again, we all need to understand that it's not all about DPR, and that is why when the women of energy invited DPR, we're very, very quick to accept this, because DPR have come to realize and very much aware, we've pushed our focus more on stakeholders, stakeholders, the public, the industry. We are sensitizing, creating awareness because we've come to know that there is, without operators, there is no regulator. So we need to do it together to meet this government aspiration of using gas to expand, industrialize, develop the domestic economy in the decade of gas. That is basic focus of the decade of gas. One of the drivers is large domestic market with viable opportunities for investment. These things are there. We'll keep speaking grammar, but yes, what we do Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. You froze for a few seconds.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So we have different targets, 5 million metric ton in 2025. We've got 5 kilogram per capita consumption. It's a huge opportunity, lowest in Africa. So 60 million homes target in 2025. We currently have 2.5 million cylinders serving 30 million houses. Million households, 80% of it. So if we want to achieve 60 million, it means we need at least 4 million cylinders every year. We need to inject it into the domestic market. Huge opportunity for investment. You can imagine 4 million every year. Very huge. There are 12 million vehicles that currently using about 38,000 liters of PMS. They are our target. How much we can use this energy mix, how much we can use gas to displace, how much of it we are displacing. DPR is currently working on seriously on that. How much of gas we are producing, if we push all into the domestic market, can we be able to displace this and all that? Target of over 1 million conversion kits. This is an issue ongoing between Autogas and vehicle owners and Autogas or facility investors. Which of them will come first? So the NGEP have done so well. They've done so well, creating a lot of sensitization for last year, and it has led to so many things, and DPR is closely supporting the NGEP, the program and all that. So industrial captive power generations, those are a key driver. So while we are looking at that, let's just focus on our current position, right? How far we have grown in infrastructure. We'll focus more on infrastructure because it's the key enabler. Infrastructure gives way better to product supply, accessibility, and all that. Is infrastructure that is the major drivers. So we've seen our depot have grown from 2017 to 2020, the blue to yellow, from 12 to 19. As I speak today, I have not updated this. This is for 2020. We already have another depot, which is 20. We have 2 more coming up. The LNG facilities is growing. One company, Greenville, beautiful. We so much admire their model. This is a company that single-handedly control all the value chain just because they want to create a market. It's difficult to create a market for LNG, a new product that was not existing. They didn't want to start struggling with LPG that is already almost getting mature. Started it, become the supplier, the transporter, bring it to the customer gate, and control their contracts, right? And they have suddenly made it, the Nigerian market, an attraction for the likes of NLNG, and DPR is ready to support everybody, every company, so that we can further move this opportunity further higher. CNG facilities are growing too. By the time our AKK and other gas plants comes in, this CNG will be very strategic. It's going to compete very well with the LNG. Nigeria, with DPRO, we are giving room for alternative energy mix. Let everybody play. Free market, let there be an effective competition such that at the end of the day, it's for Nigerian economy to gain. The gas filling plant, we can see it has grown from 2017 to 2020, 675 to 1,068. In the next 10 years, what our problem will be in DPRO, how we can be able to compliance monitoring, how we can be able to sustain the massive, those are exactly what we are sitting down right now. They will grow, they will reach out, but we want to ensure that the integrity of these facilities, they can protect the environment and the people and the investors too. So again, looking at the dashboard on existing LPG infrastructures and facilities in Nigeria, our supply end, right? We have currently 8 local producers, NLNG, BROT, Nigeria, PNG, Umuti, that produce LPG, propane, and LNG. We have AHL and we have Oredo gas plant, the new that just came into the system. We have potentials, about 2 more. Many other ones are coming up. The more we have local producers, the better for us to reduce importation. Let us use what we produce and export the remaining one. That is one of the drive of the decade of gas. There's a lot of opportunities we will see. 19 operational coastal depots existing currently give us a national storage capacity of about 68,000 metric tons. 10 depots under construction, and that is going to bring in about 92,000 metric tons. 6 depots at conceptual stage is going to give us about 38,000 metric storage capacity. Then the 32 off-takers, bulk traders that are players trying to come in. All this lies opportunity for you to go in. You own your facilities. DPRO is going through some slogans. You will begin to see the words like gaspreneur, opportunity to support people with low income that can be able to use the MDC or be able to, I think we'll get there. Let me not go too fast. So transportation, bulk and semi-bulk, right? Shuttle vessels, we already have the ones in LNG coming to domestic market. There are prospects for some of the new guys that have signed in the SPA for the DLNG. Some of them are already coming up with potentials in bringing in 2 more LNG shuttle vessels for bunkering and selling into the domestic market. Bunkering is not an illegal word. I mean, vessels that are ongoing because of the IMO regulation. Sulfur content has to be reduced. So most of the ongoing vessels have converted to LNG, their engines already. So when they come to the Nigerian market, some of them will begin to look for LNG where they will buy for fuel, just to refuel, to take them back. So some people are strategically locating themselves in such a way that they will locate bunk vessels that can get this begin to refill, and so DPR is carefully looking at all these opportunities and options. We are open to options. Currently for distribution, we are equally doing very well. We have seen the LPG retailers, almost 1,000. The challenge we have with the LPG retailers and resellers is decanting. Most of the accidents we have are linked up to the LPG retailers. They are supposed to be our strategic partners to take it home, but because of their style of operation, they give us a bit headache. This sector and the transportation sector, that is 2 areas that DPR is focusing seriously on, because there is some gap we have to really close. The 533 LPG retail outlets currently in Nigeria, potentials for add-on, and they are for LPG auto gas plants, and we have the another about over 9,000, almost 12,000 or so more of potential add-on nationwide. So end users, I've mentioned about 2.5 million cylinder, all right? Industrial storage and utilization facilities and industries that use gas as a substitute for diesel, that has displaced. We have the LNG regasification. Industries are using it, LNG. Some are CNG, industries are using it. Some estates are using CNG for power, for captive power. Some are reticulating. You come into an estate, you bring in an LPG oil, an LPG, you meter that house, you meter the homes, you pipe it instead of bottles. So you can go and have a concession in that estate. DPRO will give you a license. It's very clear, it's online. You can always to give you the process for you to become a reticulator. You get a 10 metric ton, a 5 metric ton, you locate it in an estate, you reticulate into the facility. So that is a huge opportunity. Imagine the number of estates in Nigeria. So we're closely working with the relevant government agencies to ensure that that process is safe. LPG consumption, we already know it has exceeded 1 million target, and we already have set up another target, 2 million this year. Someone is saying, how can we achieve that? Well, it's let's see, because the pre-NGEP drive is going to bring in a lot of progress. So yes, so let's go into these opportunities, right? We'll begin to look at opportunities in 2 dimensions. Let's start with the upstream assets. Assets are key. First, like I said, opportunities goes with gap. If you can understand gap, then that is your opportunity, depending on how you see it. And that is the objective of this meeting. We want to know. So 3 billion barrels of AG and NAG reserve to be added in the medium term. Additional 10 billion standard cubic feet of gas production in the medium term required to meet demand imperative of decade of gas. These are gaps. We need them. And what it means is that you, the great women of our nation, you begin to think this is our opportunity. And they all vary from high intensive, medium intensive capital to very low internal gas. The CEO will use the word gaspreneur, taking it to entrepreneur, to lower point where Nigerians could have small scale gas production. Potential, deepen prospect for gas exploration. This decade of gas is going to deepen that. Most of the gas we found were as a result of accidental discovery. You are looking for oil, you suddenly find gas, you just draw it down. I'm like, what is this? You cock it up. But right now we are revisiting those areas, and there will be a conscious effort as the value of gas is driving, and we'll likely see conscious efforts to begin to explore. It's already happening, more are happening. So we've already started that, but it will be deepened more. Acquisition of oil and gas blocks, marginal field development. We just saw recently some awards we are giving out, and the objective of that award is for gas, because we equally realize that most of our marginal field operators, they give the volume of gas we get from them, they are ready to monetize almost every element of their supply chain. Divested assets, these are potential. There are different assets that will come out of it. Brownfield asset optimization. So all these opportunities for investment and participation, licensing rounds, rig and equipment leasing and related as you are drilling NAG well. Some people would think it's only oil you drill. You drill for NAG. NAG are non-associated. They are like oil, you drill for it. So those are huge opportunity. MPDC has done so great in this regard. Seplat, they've done great. We've seen a lot of companies that are venturing into that, and more awards we were just mentioned about that. The marginal fields development and the huge prospect is going to give to the industry. So opportunities in the midstream, additional gross national pipeline network. I don't think we've hit up to 40% of the gas master plan in terms of pipeline. There is still many, AKK is just signed. There are so many of them. When you look at the pipeline, with huge opportunity there, 750 million standard cubic feet of gas, of flare gas. We've just done the gas flare commercialization program. The second phase will be coming up very, very soon. We want to mop up and utilize all our gas. So that is a gap. We've seen that. And with DPR is doing a lot of it. It's not just about talking. The current CEO is is walking the talk. He's taking every step to bring this low domestic gas utilization for power, commercial, industrial, gas-based industry, huge opportunity in the gas-based industry. In fact, we haven't really started, but I'm sure there's a lot that you will see: fertilizers, gas to liquid, GTL, and many others, methanols that will come out of these GBIs. Potentials. We have the Nigerian gas pipeline. We have the power plants and GBI development, pipe mills, gas flare commercialization. All these are opportunities for investment and participation. The midstream still continues shortfall in domestic gas production capacity. Like I mentioned, we need so much. We're just only 9 companies that are currently producing LPG and propane, both for import, for export and the domestic use. We need more than we have potentials to get about 100 gas producing and really liquefaction facilities are needed for security of supply in the midstream. There's a serious gap in the mini LNGs. Most of this gas commercialization, the people that want it, it's just a program where gas that are being currently flared, you can come up with different technologies, mini LNG, GTL, depending on the capacity. And if it meets, if it can break even through the technology we want to adopt, even CNG, you can go there, take that gas and convert them into, depending on, there are beautiful things, there are portable technology, mini technologies that are growing. Things are really happening. So everybody, including DPR, on our feet, every day we see people are coming up with different solutions. When you think you've seen it all, some other one is coming up with solutions. So we are creating that opportunity to enable ideas as long as they are safe. Potential for more than 100 gas producing and liquefaction facility technologies and knowledge transfer into Nigeria as we get used to all this new technology. More gas terminals, export facilities are highly needed. So greenfield gas production, modular mini refineries and all that. So for the downstream, that is my area more that I'm very, very comfortable in, and we've been driving it because we discovered that is where the market is. If we can get it right, we're taking it to the people, gas to people. So the gaps here is inadequate downstream distribution pipeline networks. So that is even in the downstream, LPG, LNG, domestic LNG penetration. All these are huge gaps that need to be filled up. We need so much energy from the energy of choice, gas. Gas distribution network is still a gap. Need for diversified mode of transportation of product. There are already existing some gas distribution network companies in Lagos that we take from the trunk line and send it to some strategic industry, even in Ogun State, right? Some will even bring LNG as a depot and begin to regasify and reticulate them into strategic industries. These are huge opportunities. You can come to any industrial estate, bring in a depot for LNG or LPG, you regasify, or these are huge opportunities. There are gaps, but there are opportunities depending how much we can see through. And DPR is always ready to have this conversation with any intending prospective investor. Potentials, growth for LPG consumption from 1 million metric ton to 5 million metric ton within 5 years. City gate gas reception terminals, autogas, we've mentioned that. Our autogas, we're focusing on CNG, LPG, LCNG, LNG. As we speak in this country, vehicles are running on LNG. What I mean is this, they'll go and take LNG as liquid, take it into their tank, the same way you take PMS, diesel, you take it in. Some trucks are running that. They will begin to regasify, use it internally and drive. So they will go a longer distance. So that is the advantage such facilities have over CNG. CNG on a shorter distance will do very, very well. And that is why the network pipeline will make it grow. Why the LNG currently is locating itself with all these options. The LCNG allows you to bring in an LNG in a storage facility like somewhere in the north, but because of vehicles that have converted for CNG that are coming from south to north, you can now regasify, you compress it, and you begin to run. In fact, the new technology is you don't even need to verify. You, in an LNG position from 4 bar, you compress it in liquid to 250 bar. So you have 4 bar LNG, 250 bar LNG, then you regasify and see a CNG will come out. That is the technology we have seen. And NNPC and co are really driving that, and DPR is giving them enough support. Need for that diversified mode of transportation of products we want to enable as much. Potential growth of LPG consumption. Yeah, I think I've really mentioned all this. So because of time, opportunities, we have opportunity in manufacturing, ventures and services, 300,000 metric ton pipe mill capacity, shortfall of over 2 million LPG cylinders, capacity for, which I just mentioned, capacity for equipment, manufacturer, fabrication, engineering, design companies, huge opportunities, both in manufacturing and all that. Potentials, pipe mills, oil and gas industry parks to support fabrication and construction, upgrade of shipyards to support marine vessels, tankers, outfitting, repairs, LPG, LNG, FSO integrated capabilities. All these are what we are going to see. Everybody, we have to get our seatbelt ready. We are about to go through serious, massive transformation or revolution, rather. So these are huge opportunities: engineering and design, financial advisory and services, equipment leasing, operations and maintenance. They all have their catalyst, what they trigger in other sectors of the economy. So refocusing the NGMP gas to people, who focus, we want to see gas to people. For electricity, LPG, CNG, mini LNG, auto gas, fertilizer, methanol, petrochemical, product, textiles, infrastructure, employment, wealth, service, value addition. We can't really, there are so many, these are just the list, and the opportunities for GDP growth in Nigeria. Nigerians, we've really gone through so much. Nigerians, we just have to get it right. This is the only time we have. If we don't get it right in the next 10 years with gas, I don't know. I just don't know. By now, we should have learned our lessons, and that is why we just have to do it together. The oil era, then maybe we were still very young, but now with our experience, we need to use our gas. We need to use our gas to develop our economy, because in the next 30 years, we may be talking about something else. 40 years, 50 years, let's use our gas and oil as much as possible. Making the 2020 a decade of gas development, okay. 2020s, we are moving into the decade of gas. So share the NLNG Train 7, we can see it's already happening. Things are really happening. The NGTMC, the NGEP, right? The pipeline gas, LPG, things that are already happening that has finally led to the decade of gas. The NGFCP, we can see addressing gas flare, waste and pollution, gas monetization, all this we are managing within this decade of gas. Huge opportunity in infrastructure, build domestic markets, gas to people, gas to power, gas-based industry, share in global gas market, revenues and dividends, FDI, as we are going through all these quadrants that we manage our decade of gas. Decade of gas is a decade of opportunities. Yeah. So that is what we see. Please come in one at a time. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Froze for a second or so, but we can hear you.
Okay. So investments, wealth, infrastructure, products. We have so much product, a lot of things we can do with that LPG, both in GBI, methanol, so many things we can get out of it. Petrochemicals, plastic. So many things that we can get. Services, we grow. Employment, GDP, we grow. We just need to. We, as a nation, it's not been easy for us. We shouldn't. Most of this security we're having in this country today is because of we are not taking advantage of the gift, what God has given to us. We need to do that. If not, God is giving us the decade of gas as an opportunity to possibly see if we can turn things around. DPRO is positions for this infrastructure revolution in the decade of gas. Our slogan is changing. Our strategy is changing. We already know the traditional problem. Problem of this, which I will call challenges and opportunities, availability, supply. We want to bring in it accessible, affordable, price issues. We're already setting up, we're looking at pricing. It's very, very important, even as far as pump price, the per gallon equivalents, how much of LNG at the pump price LPG at the pump price. We're looking at all that. The world is going global, clean and safe, friendly. DPR is looking at all this closely, economic enabling. So we are not just a regulator, because we need to begin to change our mentality. It might not be an easy one. It just started last year, but this thing has to come down to an average person in DPRO. And it's a policy. It should be a policy statement. We are an opportunity house and business enabler. An opportunity house and business enabler. When you come, so that people will no longer be scared. People will no longer feel, DPR is like, no, come with your ideas, come with your opportunities. Let's reason together and make sure and make it safe so that it will be enabled for you. Optimize systems. So every day we keep optimizing systems and process towards the issuance of license permit, because these are our tools. We still have gaps in this, but again, we are not running away from it. We'll keep rejigging it. We're discussing with the stakeholders every day. How can we make our country, our system, promote public enlightenment? And that is why we are here. The CEO have asked me to be here. The compliance as a key enabler. So enlightenment, compliance is equally very, very key. Look at the incident that happened last week. These are issues for us. Compliance, compliance, compliance. And all our licenses, permits, and approvals are centered on enabling business through compliance. You just have to follow basic minimum requirements. The ones that are unnecessarily, we are good to go. But that minimum benchmark, we shouldn't compromise, because at the end of the day, it's no longer business enabling. That man whose facility is burnt, that truck is gone. I mean, you have disenabled that business. So lack of compliance will surely kill a business. So existing and potential auto gas facilities nationwide. So this is where we want to be. This is where we want to be. We want to have auto gas is one area where flowing very closely. How much of at the pump price, gas should be able to take a sizable, if not 60% or 50% of the current fuel, PMS and diesel. That will go a long way. How much we can achieve, we need to work together, and let's see how that will go. But we have potentials, and I can tell you, people are responding. I've never seen the number of applications that are coming up for this auto gas. Nigerians are responding. So it's for us to continue to work with them to enable these processes. The DPR is equally coming up with a project 774 to stimulate massive growth in infrastructure. The objective is a strategic focus to ensure at least you have key projects in the 774 local governments in Nigeria. Micro distribution centers, we now are seeing people with solutions. They want to go the Coca-Cola model. You use a truck. You have special kids where or centers that are, instead of maybe like our current resellers category D, but they are micro distribution centers where they will be doing real scientific bottle exchange, right, with clean bottles, very good relationship contract with the manufacturer. They can drop the bottles with Internet of Things. They can be able to access the customers. So your gas is almost, you put up a call, just like Uber method, you know, or the Bolt. You can know and monitor your customers when the volume of their gas is going down. You call them, you take the cylinder to them with new one, because most people don't want to release their bottle. But we will penetrate this with time. There is a huge opportunity in this micro distribution. This is where most people, you know, we have even policy people who wants to come. Don't own the bottle, don't worry. Don't even own the skids. We will give you all that, and you will begin to operate. You have 1 or 2 contracts, little money, you will begin to operate. You make your profit, they sell it at this, and you have your weighing scale and all that, which you will manage. And you have barcodes installed to some of the cylinders. You track the integrity, you know when they will expire, when to withdraw them from the market. The auto gas refueling station, I already mentioned that, we are at least one in every local government. There is this concept of preparing to telecom, an attempt to cover up all the diesel center, all the telecom centers where there are currently using diesel. So DPR is closely opening up to working and look as long as it is safe and it meets our minimal requirement, we should be able to enable others. Gas on wheel, I just mentioned that most of these micro distribution centers, they are the Coca-Cola model, they are gas on wheel. You carry the bottles, you can get to a place, you exchange the bottles and all that. Captive power plants, CNG, DLNG, you want to take it to strategy, at least a place in local government or somewhere where you can generate electricity, supply an estate, supply strategic industry. Wow, this, sorry, I hope I'm not going to confuse you guys with this, but this is where we want to be. Don't worry about it. This is the future. We are internally looking at if by 2020, we have 1 million metric ton local consumption, what is our projection by 2021? Our consumption by base case, if we do nothing, there is nothing like a decade of gas, no declaration. So if you follow the trend from 2015, if you do nothing, this is where we will be in 2025. But if we bring in the black one that is saying, okay, let us do an escalation factor of 5%, this is where we will be. In terms of consumption, then there are infrastructures, DPR is deliberately. Currently, this is our base case infrastructure. This is the total number of depot in 2021. This is the total number of filling station, add-on producing facilities. If we want to meet this consumption trend in 2021, 2022, how many facilities do we need to achieve that? So we are closely working on that, trying to see how we can juxtapose or bring projection. We want our projections to be scientific. Let it not be based on imagination and all that. Yeah, we're going to use trend, and we are using real-time factors we see on ground, projects that are coming up, and we can be able to make some projection that we can monitor with some other parameters in this decade of gas. So DPR is working very closely, coming up with key drivers, KPIs, discovering the likely constraint, how we can manage them. We want to name them, make them scalable, measure them, know how we can begin to advise both the public, the investors, and government. So an opportunity house and business enabler, not just a regulator. The CEO, you can see him in the picture, proudly happy, giving out the first license to establish a floating LNG, using the tools, license, permits, approval, to enable, to guarantee investment, and to authorize activities. These are simple, in the downstream, these are our simple stages, basic stages if you want to build a gas refilling plant and all that. So we can take you through this process. Site suitability, we don't want you to invest, go and buy, don't use your money, buy land, only for us to come there and say, oh, sorry, this place is not really too suitable. We can take you through the site suitability. Then after that, you're sure you can come for approval to construct. The red ones are technical. They are not administrative. The black ones are administrative requirements. So DPR every day will begin to look at those administrative requirements, those within internally and other agencies. These are issues, conversation that will continue to grow, particularly in this year, decade of gas. Any bottlenecks will be, DPR just have to do something about it, and with the operators to ensure that we meet that minimum delicate balance to enable the business, keep our investment safe and the environment. So, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I think this brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. I think when we get to circulate your slides, we'll probably take a deeper dive into what you've said. Lots of new business opportunities you've introduced. I know we don't have much time left. We need to round up by 8:30, but you've introduced a lot on what happens on the upstream side, the midstream, gas-based industries, gas to people on the downstream, lots of it. Let me go in quickly and see if there are one or two people who have questions. We have about 10 minutes to go, but you've listed so many business opportunities. I was struggling. But if you don't mind, we will share your details so that people can plug into DPR and probably ask these questions directly. We'll go through NGEP and ask these questions in terms of what the opportunity, what we can do to actualize these opportunities. There was a question on gas processing, what advice do you give to people interested in gas processing? I believe that question has been answered. I hope, Stella, you asked that question. Can you confirm if the question has been answered? I don't know if Stella is still online, but she asked the question. Okay. Stella, are you still online? I see you still logged in. Okay, that was it. But I think that particularly with the DPR presentation, that question has been answered. But just the last opportunity for 5 minutes, one question or two before we round up. If anybody has any questions, there was some concern about. Can you explain more about gas on wheels?
Yes, and also,
yeah, please go on, Remy. Please go on.
Yeah, sorry, Eyono, there was also something about Citygate gas. I didn't understand that one. If he can just please clarify what that is. If Mr. Elvis can clarify what that is. And also he talked about the second gas flare program. If you can please clarify the timelines for that, so that if for those of us that are interested, we can participate. Thank you.
Elvis? I hope we haven't lost his connection. Elvis, are you still with us? I hope you're not speaking. You're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yes, the Citygate. It's we want to take the lean gas. Before all what we've been doing, most common is the virtual pipeline, where you use a truck to take LPG from a depot and take it to refilling plant. Then from the refilling plant, cylinders are refilled to home. Then you equally have other using virtual pipeline to industry. But for the Citygate, we're talking about lean gas, not the natural gas going through pipeline. It will come to a Citygate somewhere like in Lagos. Then you will begin to see distributors that can come and say, okay, I want to build a distribution network. I will take it from the Citygate, from the trunk line, and distribute into a city like Lagos. You get your right of ways, you have all your strategic customers, like some companies like, I think Shell is doing that somewhere in Ogun State, Shell Gas, we have the GasLink, and a couple of others. So that is a huge opportunity. You can go buy your franchise or get your contracts, get your strategic customers, then do your pipeline network, get a license, do your distribution from there. Taking lean gas, just like what is happening in developed countries where gas are piped through a network to homes. So we have not really started doing that because of the kind of settlements we have in Nigeria. So, but I think it's something as our estates begin to get the standards, we can most likely be able to have gas piped to homes. The second, gas flare commercialization, very, very soon. I don't really have the timeline, but I know it's very, very soon. But it's something that you can always put up a call, check on DPROs on that. But it's something that usually open once it's out, newspapers and everywhere. It's just going to be on air for participants to come in. But I have this strong feeling that the third quarter, most likely we're going to start that process. Gas on wheel, it's not really, it's a concept that we have people who are coming to us with different solutions, but DPR is carefully, we work with them, we listen to you, we say, okay, how is it going to be enabled? You want to bring in a skid plant, right? Take it to a particular strategic location in a local government or somewhere. You keep it, you pack it somewhere there, right? And people will come and refill for you. You can refill into cylinders and all that. Strategic location, areas that cannot afford huge gas plants, local governments and all that. So you can take it to them through wheel or truck, like I talked about the Coca-Cola model. It's a gas on wheel. You can, already you've refilled it. They are all in bottles, 12.5 kg, 12.5 kg or 50 kg. You use a truck to take it to people and take it to strategic centers where they can take them in crates and people will come there and refill. So there are different models that are coming up. So gas on wheel, you know, so gas to people, you will see a lot of terminologies that will keep coming, but everything still boils down to accessibility, bringing gas to people. But DPR is very much careful. Most facilities will give our licenses and permits. Very rare for you to see accidents because before we give you this license and permit, you would have gotten standard operating procedures. You have been subjected to training, MISDO training, the integrity of your equipment and facilities, and we do regular surveillance and all that. But majority of the challenges, we know where they are, and we are narrowing heavily. While we are struggling not to over-regulate the industry, at the same time, you know, it's a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. We'll continue to work hard to see how we manage this process. I don't know if I answer your question, please.
Yes, I think you have. Oh, it's been a night well spent. I think you have. Fumi, I hope he's answered your question. And
yes.
Remy, who asked on gas on wheels. Dr. Ubani, Engineer Elvis, any other question?
Yeah, I have a question. My name is Stella Okene.
Okay, yeah, I was calling you earlier. Yes, please go on.
Yeah, I think there was a network issue. I was hearing you, but you couldn't hear me. Okay, my question is for Dr. Ubani. Yeah, for a new investor into gas, right? In the value chain, what would you advise? Which of them, LPG, CNG, LNG, which of them would you advise a new investor to go into in gas processing?
That's a very interesting question. I will answer that question from the easier end, I will say. A lot depends on how much money you have access to. Let me try to put it in perspective. You can take raw gas and make power. Minimal processing. You can also take raw gas, some processing, make CNG. You can also take the gas and make LNG. In terms of money, the cheapest rung of that on that ladder is to take the wet gas, minimal processing, just basic scrubbers, knock out some liquids, maybe do some misting, and you make power at the other end and some condensate. If you have a bit more money, the gas coming out of your scrubbers, you start looking at CNG. So you clean it up a little bit more and then make CNG. If you really have lots of money, then you start thinking of LNG. Just to put it in perspective, to deploy 1 kilowatt of power in Nigeria, not 1 megawatt, is about $1,000. So 1 megawatt, you're looking at $1 million. If you wanted to build a CNG mother station that will do its own cleanup, and let's say produce 1 million standard cubic feet of CNG, you will be looking at investment of $2-3 million. If you're looking to do LNG, LNG starts getting viable when you're dealing with gas volumes of 3 million and up. Of course, the bigger, the more commercially viable it is. Typically, an LNG plant will cost you like 5 to 6 times the cost of a CNG plant. But then the operating cost of the LNG plant is about 20% the OPEX of a CNG plant. So I would approach what to do based on how much money you have in your hand. The lowest hanging fruit is gas to power. If you deploy the correct type of gas generator, the processing you have to do won't be a whole lot. But you have to also have at the back of your mind, this gas you have, what's the intention? If the intention is to kill the flare, you cannot just go and take small gas and make power, or even small CNG and make power. You will just end up reducing the flare but not eliminating it. So my answer will be, how much money do you have to play with? Then we will say, this is what you should do. But the amount of money you have should not discourage you from plugging into somewhere. For instance, one of the first questions I got was, where should you invest? Actually, like this is your question now. If you have very little money, you can start from just distributing. You can buy LPG, put them into modular distribution cans, just your small cans. Like Flash Gas in Lagos, they have cylinders in Keke Napeds, and they've set up this app. So if they are in your neighborhood, you don't need to go looking for gas. On their app, you just log in, order the gas you want, and they'll bring it to your house, take your cylinder, give you a new cylinder. The entry level there is low. So a lot depends on how much money you have. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, ladies, I'm afraid we cannot take any more questions because we have completely run out of time. We are 3 minutes over time, but the presentations will be circulated as we said at the beginning. Please, I'd like to thank Dr. Ubani, Engineer Elvis, and Dr. Ibrahim in absentia. On behalf of the Women in Energy Network, I really want to say a very big thank you for what has been a most enlightening evening, one of just showing us the unbelievable opportunities available that if we don't cash into, foreigners will. And I think a critical reminder of what is almost a call to national duty, that we have a duty to step in, and that when we do, we will pull others along with us. Please be sure that as you have promised, you said we should come, we'll be knocking on your doors. We'll take up the challenge you've given us this evening, and we will make you proud. You've said a lot about what you think women should do for Nigeria and how we will make the difference. I think this group will demonstrate that women can make the difference. So for the ladies, please, I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone who's taken the time out to be here this evening and to wait out the 3 hours that usually we allot to the power meetings. Thank you very much, ladies. Have a wonderful evening, a good night, and have a good decade of gas. Let's not just be those who will hear about what others are doing or read about what others are doing. Let us be those people will read about as to what ladies have done, our intervention in the decade of gas. I think we've circulated the phone numbers, but through Asanimo, if you can't reach them directly through Asanimo, through the Secretariat, I'm here. We should be able to reach the NGEP office and Dr. Ubani has said, we are honorary members now, or you've adopted us as members of NGEP, and you will handhold us as much as required and just take us one step at a time. Thank you very, very much. And on behalf of everybody, please have a good night and please stay safe. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.